Is it?
Wonderful.
Good evening. I'd like to call the April 2nd, 2015 special meeting of the North Branford Planning and Zoning Commission to order at 7:07 p.m. In attendance, regular members Holcrum, Sienna, Leskovich, alternate member Gunn, and I'm acting chair Galdenzi. So the first order of business that's not on the agenda is we are very, very proud that our own member Fran Leskovich received a Length of Service Award from the Connecticut Federation of Planning and Zoning Agencies for 18 years of service. So Fran, congratulations. And you were awarded a certificate, which is well worth your 18 years of service, right? So congratulations, Fran. First order of business is the minutes of the March 19th, 2015 meeting. I think we all have it in our packets. Anyone have comments?
Move to accept them.
Second.
Any second? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Minutes are approved. Second order of business on number 4 on the agenda is PZ application 2015-2, which is a special use permit request under section 23.1, Schedule A, line A11, to allow an accessory dwelling unit at 125 Oxbow Lane. It's map 72, lot 51A20. It's an R40 zone, and owner applicant Manuel Rodriguez. So in attendance for the public hearing, regular member Holcrum, Sienna, Leskovich, alternate member Gunn, and acting chair Geldens.
Okay. So what I'd like to do is convert my garage.
Just, your
Switch
mic
that on.
might not be on, just switch
Switch that
that,
on. Now,
a
mic
little-
check.
pull it toward
How's
you.
that?
Yep.
Yes.
Put it,
Okay, good.
perfect.
So what I'd like to do is convert my current garage, just two-car garage.
Just for your name and address.
Manny Rodriguez, 125 Oxbow Lane. So what I'd like to do is convert my garage, which is roughly 570 square feet, into an in-law setup for my mother, who's 88 years old, to care for her. So have a bathroom, kitchen, a couple bedrooms, or one bedroom, and a living room.
Okay, so,
And you're going to build a new garage?
Yeah, eventually, because I want to put my car in the garage, so I'm going to build a 3-car detached garage.
Okay, that goes in front of the
Actually, the end of the driveway, right, where the driveway ends, and
Yeah.
go at the end of the house, so it's going to be just we'll go back off the curb house. Then you can go back.
so just give us a second. So,
Chris,
yeah, I don't know if it makes, does anyone want to have him just walk us through briefly the
I
floor
think
plans? Okay.
it's pretty obvious what he's doing here and the print we got.
While you're looking that over, the referrals that I sent out were to the building official, who said that the project must meet requirements of the building code in effect at the time of application, which a building permit would have to be pulled separately, obviously, separate from the special use permit. The fire marshal had no problems with the application so long as the owner occupant followed all NFPA, CGS, and Connecticut State Fire Safety Codes. The engineer also had no outstanding comments, and East Shore Health was also okay with the project. And I received the green cards, the return receipt requests notifying the abutters of the project.
It doesn't have a separate entrance, right? It doesn't have a separate front entrance or anything.
A separate entrance?
Front, yeah.
It will in the back, it will be national, I don't know, private entrance. You don't have a joining entrance from my house into it.
And the heat and electricity roll off the main house.
Oh, yeah, it's all system by my current system plan. No meter.
We have a public hearing on this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any comments right now?
No.
Okay, we're going to just open it up to the public. So we'll open it up for public comment. If anyone has a comment they'd like to make, please come forward, name, address, and then make your comment or question. Any comments from the public? Close the public hearing.
Yeah, I reinstated that.
Close the public hearing.
Yes, official comment.
Last chance. Anyone from the public? Okay. Okay, we're going to close the public hearing then. Commission, any further discussion? Yeah, go ahead, David. Just, if you could turn, for everyone's benefit, just turn the mic on and.
Hey, look at your, there's actually 2 entrances in the back. One for the mudroom and one for the living room, right there.
Yeah, there's 2 entrances. It's powerful, and you walk out of that mudroom to the garage, that's the big plan. And then from that, my entrance to her place, I can get into that mudroom.
Yeah, when I see this, right driveway, is that the new existing, proposed garage in the back?
Yeah, in the back, there we go. Straight to our scale of person.
And there's stairs, the garage, the second story, there's stairs in it?
It's just got a loft, that's all it's got. It's kind of like my current garage in my house now, where I store all my stuff in my attic above my garage. It's just-
Well, right now, they're only proposing to convert that at the garage right now.
I'm sorry?
Right now, is the proposal just to convert the existing garage or
Convert
the
the
garage
existing-
and the new
Just
garage?
convert the existing garage.
The new garage would not require site plan approval. It would just require a building permit and zoning permit.
Okay. Questions?
Do we usually look at adjacent ones that have been converted typically, or is
Yeah,
that
we
generally, do we have?
we had a record of where there were.
Just to prevent overload,
accessory
right, more or less?
apartments. Yes.
It doesn't.
Yeah, no, I understand. This
It
is
really doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Anybody wants to take care of their family, if they're within a building code, they should be allowed to do it.
And I think the other thing to highlight with this application is that it's a conversion of an existing building, so he's not constructing a new building for the accessory dwelling component.
Any further discussion from the commission? David?
Other towns have a requirement that any in-law addition must be one room, and after that person passes whatever, it cannot be rented out, must be always occupied by a blood relative. Is that part of our standard?
Our regulations are that one of the unit, if there's an accessory dwelling on a parcel, either the principal dwelling or the accessory dwelling has to be occupied by the property owner. So 10 years from now, Mr. Rodriguez could occupy this accessory dwelling and rent out his home, as long as he occupies one of the structures on the parcel. And there's actually an affidavit that he'll have to sign as part of the zoning permit application.
So this could be, he could stay in the main house and rent out the conversion. Okay.
When this whole regulation was put into effect, it was more of an affordable housing type of approach. So people could stay in their house, they could live there, and they could afford to live in that unit and rent it out or apply it to a relative. But there was no restriction on that.
Okay, any further discussion by the commission? Okay? The motion?
No.
So motion
Oh,
to
yeah,
close and
yeah.
then we'll act on it.
Motion to close.
Yeah,
We'll
just
close
close it.
Yeah, we'll close the public hearing. Thank you.
Thank
Yep, thank you. Okay, next order of business is P&Z application 2015-3. It's a special use permit request under section 23.1, Schedule A, line C9, to allow an addition to an existing commercial recreational building to include an additional ice rink at 24 Firelight Place, map 64, lot 3, it's an I3 zone, owner Northford Ice Pavilion LLC, applicant Criscola Engineering LLC. In attendance for this Public hearing, regular member Holgren, Sienna, Leskovich, alternate member Gunn, and I'm acting chair Hildens.
So as Bob's setting up, I just want to point out that the plans that you have in your packet are slightly different than what Bob's going to show you right now. The minor change is just the dumpster that is being proposed in the southern corner, southeastern corner of the parcel, and some surrounding fencing around that.
Okay, good evening. For the record, my name is Bob Criscolo, licensed engineer and land surveyor. My office is in Branford. I have with me tonight, who will talk a little bit about the architectural, is Ray Bauer from BL Companies, and I also have the manager of the Northford Ice Pavilion, Mr. Bill Maniscalco, here to talk and answer any questions you may have about the operations. This is an I3 zone, and what I put up before you is the existing conditions map. And I really don't like the wiring.
Get your wireless someday.
But I really want to point at my map.
All right.
As long as you don't start singing.
No wireless.
Yeah.
Bet you never saw
Good
that.
job.
You're doing pretty good for a civil engineer.
Oh, boy. Excuse me, well, now I feel better. Okay. So, to orientate you, this is Clintonville Road, this is Firelight Place, and the existing parcel, which is 6.1 acres in size, is shown in red and also in orange. The existing ice pavilion that contains 2 rinks is the yellow box. It's about 65,000 square feet in size. It's roughly 260 by 250. And around here, the gray shape is the parking around the property and the facility, which is 195 cars. This is a roadway that we had laid out to town standards, and it was constructed back originally in 1997, 1998, to allow for future access to this 35-acre parcel of land here. Because really what it is right now is there's one lot, which is the 6+ acre, which is the ice rink lot, and the remainder of the parcel, which is not a building lot, that is owned in common with some of the owners here, which is a 35-acre parcel of land. And in order to kind of give you a little history, when we have laid out the ice rink addition, which I'll show you very soon, and it's on the northerly side here, this new red line is property that will be deeded and sold from this rear piece to the front piece to make the new proposal as conforming with zoning as possible. 2 things that we struggled with was the coverage and also floor area ratio and building coverage and maximum lot coverage. By adding this 2 acres, 2.6 acres, we're able to meet those regulations. So as part of this development plan, we'll be doing what I would consider a lot line modification, in which this orange line, which is this property here, will become this larger property to make it conforming. Now, last month we appeared before the Zoning Board of Appeals, and we received 2 minor variances, and it was for building line setback to property line. And to orientate you again, this is Firelight Place. This brown area here with this circle is the existing drive that I talked about that was constructed for future access. This is the existing ice rink building, and this is the proposed addition to the north side. So we requested and discussed with the ZBA a 50-foot setback variance from 100 feet, and also a parking lot setback from 50 to 10. And that was to allow for this roadway here to someday in the future extend up and to the north to allow for future development. Those 2 requests were granted, and if you can see this new lot line and the existing roadway now goes into it, it would go up this way and then end up hopefully someday in in the future, a cul-de-sac here, which would allow for other development and building in keeping with the I3 zones requirements in that area. So the proposal, in my opinion, is very, very simple. It's to add the addition, the one wing on the north side, and it is this figure right here. It's about 28,400 square feet. It's 125 by 225. We have, as part of this, rearranged the parking. And you can see on the site plan that we have lost some parking here, but we've added parking on the north side in keeping with the new lot line that we're proposing, and also on the northwest side in keeping with the new lot line that we're proposing. So as a result, right now there's 195 parking spaces on the site, 35 new spaces are being proposed. I'll bring up the parking on the site to 230 parking spaces, of which 10 would be handicap and 3 along the northerly end would be for buses. So how you would get to the site is you would come up Firelight, you go down the existing roadway itself that's there right now, and you would turn in. You have the existing front parking. You also have parking along the right side of the building and the rear, which is in keeping, and then you start the new parking for the east side and the northerly part of the addition, and then connect in to that existing roadway that's there. There's also a new finger of parking, which includes some 27 spaces up in the front that's kind of connected to the proposed addition, along with the walkway system to connect into the center entrance. So, as part of the site development plan, and what Claire was talking about, there's a small, one could call an addition on the back of the building to connect the two buildings to allow for the ice cleaning machine to go from this facility here through this corridor and then into this ice rink, so you wouldn't have to come out into the traffic area, go down the roadway, and then go back into the building. So that was one of the changes that we made, which was very minor, that's not included in your set. It's a very, very small little corridor to add to that existing building. Your project set has the as-built, which is 3 of 5, and really it's just an A2 survey, excuse me. This is the grading plan. The A2 survey that more defines in a larger scale the existing building, which is yellow, the current parking around it, the driveway that I've spoken about with the cul-de-sac area. So if I flip back to the first sheet, you see the cul-de-sac there, and that will be partly parking at this point. And there again, with the future, this roadway will continue on to the remaining 32 acres of land. In working with staff and in going to the ZK meeting, we had concern from a neighbor about waste management and dumpster. And I'd like to add to the record a letter from one of the owners, Mr. Sacagino, about addressing the individual's concerns. I believe it should be part of the record. They are going to manage their trash a little better. The letter basically says that they're allowing you to design improvements to that area, and I'm going to go over that very briefly with you once I enter this in the record.
Oh, yeah, Bob, they have it in their packet, but I can take it just for the file. I'll take it as an exhibit.
We'll take it as an exhibit.
Okay. And
Thank you.
And there's also, we're working with the police chief, and we have a memo, and I guess that's also in the package, Gary. And that memo talks about timing of high school events. And why that's very important is that games were being scheduled 2 hours from beginning to end, so that at the end of 2 hours, the next game is starting. Imagine there was new people coming to the site. So this letter that's from the manager basically states that they're going to stagger those games a little bit more so that after an event, you can have cars leave the site and then you have new cars coming in, so you wouldn't have that time period where you had really kind of double the cars at the site as you would because of having games so close. The letter also commits to putting up some more signs and being better about managing the traffic, because that was a concern that I think of the police department. And also talks about the dumpster and managing that in a better manner. So that is in writing to you. This was discussed with staff and also with the town officials.
So Bob, I have a question. So is it ultimately the owner that dictates the times? I would always just think it was like the CAIC or CIAC or whoever.
Well, I think
Like they would say we have to, this is the schedule of the hockey games, and it's like, okay. So it's the manager can say to that body, no, we're going to do it. You got to give us a half an hour.
That is correct.
Huh?
That's
Okay.
what is represented. Bill Maniskowski is here. If you want to talk to him about that, but clearly that's in writing now, and they're more
Okay.
and more scheduled to make it a more of a better traffic flow.
Yeah.
if I may say.
Okay.
Bob, while we're on that topic, I did speak with Lieutenant Ripa, and so he reiterated some of these concerns that we talked about, requiring adequate parking for games, just because numerous people had been ticketed in the past for parking in fire lanes. He also requested, as you mentioned, spacing the games to allow for appropriate traffic flow, just because with a combination of people parking in fire lanes and then games being back to back, there was almost, he said, a singular lane of traffic leaving Firelight Place or entering, so it just created a traffic issue. He also talked about tamper-proof signs for the no parking fire lane signs, because apparently some have been removed, which was something that we talked about at our meeting as well, and also having appropriate pavement markings in addition to the signage. He mentioned proper snow clearing, making sure that the snow is removed from one curb to another. Also having appropriate lighting. And then along those lines, when some people park in Honeywell, because from what I understand, there's an arrangement between the Ice Pavilion and Honeywell or Firelight that people can park there for overflow parking. There was some concern expressed about people walking from Honeywell across to the Ice Pavilion with lack of sidewalks and or appropriate lighting. So those were just some things I just wanted to raise that Lieutenant
Right,
Ripa
and I
mentioned.
believe that the owner has represented that most, even though they have that agreement to park across the street, that wasn't being utilized at this point, and there wasn't a need for it, but that agreement is in place, and there is some, they're aware of the safety concerns. The good thing is at the end of the street, there isn't a lot of traffic. I think maybe if you look at my map, the end of the street is right here, and the parking is right there. Anyway, we're adding 35 spaces. It's going to bring it up to, I believe it was 230. I think we have a nicer arrangement with parking around it. And you know, in regards to the concerns from the last meeting that I was at, we've added a lot of detail to the dumpster area. I believe it will be the best one in town. It's going to be fenced. It's going to have arborvitae around it, and then it's going to have another fence with gates in the front. So I think you'll have something that won't allow any trash to go anywhere at this point. And the manager of the facility also has committed to watching it and doing more frequent emptying of the containers that they need to take.
Bob, is there more than one entrance to both those rinks? Or is it just the one for,
Primary is in the center. There are other ones that are code compliant entrances, but they really want to have everyone enter in the center and then fan out to the other rings.
now, what about, do you have to put in extra lavatories to accommodate?
What I can do at this time is have architect from BL, Ray Mulberry, come up and talk about that.
Can I just ask one more thing on the parking? So the existing rink looks roughly 2.5 times the new one, just roughly. So, and we had 195 existing, you're adding 40,
Yes.
from 195 to 235.
So is that's sufficient based on all the comments we've had?
Yes, because
Okay.
one rink is set up with stands on it, so that you have spectators, and then there are the practice rinks.
Gotcha.
And how we've always laid this out is 35 per practice rink, so this is another practice.
Good, okay, thank you.
This time I'd like Ray to talk a little bit about the architectural and hopefully answer your
So the other rink is a practice rink, the addition.
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Ray Mulbauer. I'm the Director of Architecture for BL Companies. I have with me, for convenience, 8 copies of what you're about to see here. I'll just pass them. So the addition is very simple. What you see highlighted on this board, which is the floor plan, is the addition to the existing building. The existing building has the 2 rinks, and the addition is going to include a small lobby that will be accessed from the main lobby, a corridor to connect to the new rink, and then along the side of the rink there will be 6 change rooms, and there will be 2 new public bathrooms. And there's also going to be a Zamboni room, which is necessary, of course, for surfacing the ice, and then a small manager's office, so that which is right adjacent to the Zamboni room. And you'll also notice there's some stairs here and here on top of the change rooms. There will be bleacher seating for approximately 400 members. And in answer to the question that was asked earlier, aside from the 2 new bathrooms, the men's and women's public bathrooms, there are also toilets within all of the change rooms, and there's a family bathroom being added as well. And in addition, there's an existing women's bathroom, and we need to put another 6 toilet fixtures in there in order to make sure we take care of the occupancy count. So the fixtures are taken care of as per code. And what you see here is a color rendering of the completed facility. And there's 2 images on the sheet. The top image, you'll notice there's sort of a darker area that indicates what was existing, and the lighter gray with the stripes indicates what's new, sort of a little key plan there. But the main image is the overall rink after the addition has been completed. The walls are split-face concrete block, which will match exactly to the existing, including the blue striping that is also masonry and matches the existing. The overall height of the building is 30 foot 2 inches, so the parapets match exactly with what's there, and that'll allow us to have a regulation height inside the ring. And that's basically it. If there are any questions.
You said there were stairs in this addition going up to add bleachers,
Yes,
450 seats.
correct.
Those are new seats?
Those will be new seats.
But you just said there was no seats in the new addition.
I
have represented that because Mr. Sacadino has represented to me that those seats will be a future phase at this point. It is shown just to show you what may be coming up.
So can the existing parking handle 450 seats?
Parking for that phase would have to come before you.
Yeah, so at this point, it's just a structure on top that's being designed so that it will handle a future load capacity on top of those change rooms.
Is there lighting in the back of the building? Not looking at it, sure, I can see lighting curve, kind of goes dark around the backside.
The building has existing wall-mounted lighting around that. Like attached to the correct.
Any other questions? We're going to open it up to the public. We can have questions afterwards. Anyone else have questions now? Commission? Dave, Ron, Bren, Charlie?
Would it be helpful for me to provide more information about referrals?
Yeah, please.
The building official provided a referral and just said that the applicant will need plan review at time of the application and must comply with current code in effect at the time of the application. The fire marshal noted some specific recommendations, which include that the dumpster should be away from the building in an enclosed area, which it has been. The original plans that he saw had the dumpster at a different location. Or I guess when he was on site, that's what he observed. It's since been moved, as Bob pointed out. The building fire department's sprinkler connection has to be made accessible for fire apparatus hookup, and facility parking in general with signage has to be installed to maintain clear passage of fire department apparatus in the event of an emergency. I also sent a referral to the town of North Haven, but I did not receive any comments. And I've sent a referral to the Economic Development Commission, and they meet on Monday. So I'll look for a comment from them for the next meeting, assuming that this remains open. And I'll let Kurt speak to his issues.
Yeah, just one thing. This has also will be on the Tuesday's WPCA meeting approval for the addition. They do need WPCA approval. Pretty much it's an administrative approval. They said that there's a connection fee set for the square footage of the addition. Capacity exists in the sanitary sewer system. There's a minor modification of the existing sanitary sewer line within the property. It's served by public water, so those issues, that's how they'll all be addressed.
The other thing just to note is that there are wetlands to the northeast of the site. I've spoken with Bob Priscola about that, and from a wetlands perspective, because there's no change or drastic significant impact to the wetlands, it's not required to file a separate application with the wetlands agency at this time. They're just moving some storm drains that are currently located where the third ring will be to the northeast slightly and putting in some new catch basins, but the inlets, outlets that go into the wetland will not be enlarged at all, and they have appropriate sedimentation and erosion controls cited on the plan to be in place during construction.
Any further comment?
One question, said they moved the dumpster and it's going to be fenced in. Is that on the new plan?
Do it now? Maybe explain it, have him explain it a little bit more.
There is a concrete pad right in this area, so those dumpsters were located along the back of the building. So they're going to be back where they should be, and that's going to be the area that's gated and also treated and fenced.
And I should just mention for the record, as Bob mentioned, that at the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting last month, there were some concerns about trash. The ZBA, which I included in your packet, requested that I submit a memo to you just recommending that you take a closer look at trash. Even though they did fulfill the request for a variance, they wanted to make sure that those issues were addressed, which I feel like they are at this point.
Do you mind just expanding a little bit on the comment the architect made about this, that David brought up, the 450 bleacher seats?
What I will do, Bill, is I will get a letter into the record for you. They are contemplating that additional seating in the future. It is included in the plan, and Mr. Sacamino was on a fast track and talked about removing that so that there was not a confusion, and I was hopeful that that was understood. But unfortunately, that didn't get into the record, and I will clean that up for you, because clearly there have to be more parking associated with that.
Yeah, very good, thank you. Thank you. Any other comments from the commission? Okay, thank you. So now we'll go to the public portion. If anyone from the public would like to speak, please come on up. Just name and address and make your comment or question.
My name is Kathy Rajunas. I live at 60 Clintonville Road. Another member of my family was here last week voicing our concern about the trash and the pollution that has come from the Northford Ice Pavilion onto the wetlands northeast of the pavilion. It is still a problem. They have moved the dumpsters, but according to the plans, they will be putting the dumpsters back to the place where they once were. Even though they're enclosed, as the plans are showing, trash still leaves these dumpsters and goes onto the wetlands, into our stream, and into our pond. We have styrofoam containers. We have black trash bags that they put all the trash in. We have water bottles, sports bottles, all in our land, which is wetlands, into the stream and into the pond. This is a major concern. It's pollution, and it's something that I've been addressing for well over a year now. It has gotten some attention since they have decided to do the addition, but until now, I have not been pleased with the response that I have received. I did get a letter. It's probably, I'm not certain, the one that you have in front of you that the owner had sent. And I doubt my reply is there also, of which I sent him a picture that very day he sent me out the email of the trash bins overflowing, the tops off, and cardboard strewn all on our land. I understand we want economic development in our town, but I don't think it should be at the expense of homeowners. And we have a very quaint 13-unit condominium complex that's abutting their land, and it is being trashed by the ice pavilion. So, building a storage container around, I don't know whether that's going to address our issues at all. Certainly, the trash that's there right now is not being addressed at all. That's my concern. So I hope that you'll help us. Adding one more ice rink when they can't take care of what's theirs right now is unacceptable to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else from the public like to speak?
My name is George Miller, Dogwood Road. I have no objection to the economic development and the efforts to utilize the site, but it sounds like a very large project, a project that's going to bring a lot of people in there potentially. They're talking about expanding it in the future. I'd like to see the board put a requirement within any approval that you issue to arrange for traffic control as necessary for these events. Give the police department an opportunity to have traffic control at Clintonville Road if you're going to be bringing in hundreds of people and potentially large numbers of cars. If they're scheduling it, it's something that could be managed.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to speak? Okay, seeing no one, will close the public portion of the public hearing. Move on to action. Any further discussion?
I think Bob wanted to address some of those questions.
Yes, thank you for recognizing that. I wanted to have the manager of the Northern Ice Pavilion, Bill Maniscalco, talk about the improvements, the letters, the trash, and the traffic control, which we, as I said before, I've met the police department staff and I as an engineer trying to help them become better in asset, even though I do think they are now. So if I may, Bill, please say a few words.
We close the public hearing, but now there's-
Well, let's go to the manager as far as the trash. I apologize.
Can I just interrupt? Because I didn't realize you were going to speak, so we're going to reopen the public hearing in case someone wants to speak after the owner has a chance to speak. So, sorry to interrupt, go ahead.
And I do apologize for people behind us. We had an issue with outside people dumping stuff in the trash and leaving stuff open, and definitely rectified it within the last year or so. Caught them, which is good. I think putting the fence around it is going to definitely help a lot to enclose that and keep that in there to where the guys are on a lot more. As far as the traffic flow that we have, we're fortunate enough, even adding the third ring, times for each group coming in will be staggered. So, your PD team may be coming in, 20, 30 minutes later, another group, so that helps with the traffic flow. The only issue where we're adding traffic police is during high school games. We were fortunate enough this year that all the local teams did very well, so it attracted a lot more fans and everything else, and with the snow pile up, it did help in make-up games, and that was the reason we had to stack games, which is unfortunate, but we was the only way to get them in before a certain deadline, so the teams can compete in their state tournament. They had, so, moving ahead and talking to CIAC, they said we'd try to stagger that, and if we had to move a game on a first state game, we would, but as far as the team's home games, we can schedule that and stagger that, which is a lot easier. So, and I've addressed that with all the coaches, and they didn't have a problem with them. And time-wise, I mean, the hard part is we can't start too early because you need to give time for their opponents to get there. Also, so, they don't have a problem with that, which is with them. And if there's any other suggestions of the trash, we have the guys out there to do that up better. And get on, like I said, we had an issue with some outside people throwing stuff in there, so they close it, block everything. It's going to help tremendously.
When you
Can you
schedule,
guarantee that, now that the snow is gone, I'm sure every place there's trash. And it's not only what's blown out, it's probably people
Yes.
that just throw their bottles and throw their containers. But can you guarantee these, these residents that somebody will go out there and start cleaning up from last
It
year?
started right away and everything, yes.
can you also speak to the frequency of when your dumpsters are empty?
We were on a weekly basis and had another one added during the high point season. Now it's a slower time for us, in the winter time, September till, basically end of February is the busier time. So we've gone to a bi-weekly and then, sometimes 3 times a day after to just keep the flow down, that's all.
You stated that you had outside people dumping here. Do you have security cameras in your dumpster?
We don't have them yet. That's one of the parts we're going to do with the new fishing review.
Security cameras.
I think that you probably are going to have to have somebody, the trash is probably going to be contained in the container now with all the fencing and everything. But it's not going to stop people from throwing their trash. And it's unfortunate, but it's a reality. But I think that maybe it's your kind of obligation to make sure that the grounds get cleaned up.
When they cut the grass, which is weekly, they pick up the trash, we told them we want to do it, 5 times a week. That's all. Make sure we're not talking about it. Yeah, it is unfortunate. People go around and it's just, rolls my ashtray, throwing stuff.
How far in advance do you schedule your games? Is it a monthly schedule?
We
or-
try to start scheduling high school games right now. As far as high school games, yeah, we're doing that now. Right now, youth hockey's are going through their tryouts, and then we'll be getting the right schedule shortly. So we try to be anywhere from 6 months to a year ahead, is what the hope is. Yeah.
So you could start to stagger those now and plan those
Well,
out?
yeah, we
and-
gave them a warning on that, that's what we have to do, so they know it. So it's a matter of, if North Haven and North Branford are playing home that day, to make sure Branford's in there.
In the memorandum, so the games are scheduled for 2 hours.
Right.
You're going to allocate 2.5 hours for each game. So it gives them 15 minutes to suit up and 15 minutes to take a shower and get dressed. Is that really?
Well, basically, a high school game takes about an hour and 40 minutes to 45 minutes to play, start to finish, and then taking the ice. So that gives us basically 45 minutes. The kids are out of there within 15 minutes, to be honest, in the shower. Yeah. The coaches don't want to hang around too long.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Bob, did you have anything else?
That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the public hearing is still open. Anyone from the public like to speak? Nancy?
Nancy Cloud, 20 Village Street, Branford. I just have a question. This new facility backs up to farmland, and, okay, we hear about trash difficulties. Is there ATV, the four-wheeler traffic back there that's going onto the farmland? And will this push it closer by this new facility being pushed back even further? I think that might be a concern for the farm near there.
Thank you.
I believe, I don't know if Mr. Cristola wants to address this, but the parcel that is owned by the group that owns the ice rink, and then the portion of the parcel to the north is all zoned I3, and then to the east are residential parcels. I believe that there has been a lot of ATV activity, just from when I've been out there, just seeing the tracks. But the third rink will be essentially within that same footprint. It won't be extending too far to the north.
Basically, yes, it's a 35-acre parcel of land. This is an activity that's occurring, the owners don't condone it. They've tried their best to manage it. I don't know, they don't know how and where these kids are coming. I've learned tonight that they travel through transmission lines that come from all other towns.
Yeah.
And they're traveling through this area, and some of them stop here and they're doing things that the owners don't want that way. Like, the cops come, these kids are so fast they come off the property. So I'm not sure how you want to manage that other than post it, do the things that they've been doing, calling the police department and trying their best. But the truth is, the rink is going, as I said before, right within the cul-de-sac area. It's not going to push all those kids into what I believe they're talking about to the north, to Newton Farm. I think that activity sounds like it is coming from other towns through there, possibly.
I can address another thing on that. The property used to have, first of all, there were a lot of hills, and our second owner ended up cutting that down so it's all flat to try to deter that kind of ATV, but it's definitely not an issue that we address with them constantly. I was told by one of the kids that I was here before you guys, and we're going to be here about after, so.
All right, thank you. Any other comments from the public? Commission, any other questions? Any other comments from the public? Okay, we're going to close the public hearing. And we will move on with the agenda. So we're on action on the first public hearing, right?
Yes, I've drafted a motion.
Okay, next order of business is possible action on the public hearing. The first public hearing application, PZ application 2015-2. Do we have any further discussion on this public hearing, the accessory dwelling? Any discussion, Commission? Ron? Fran? No?
I move to approve planning and zoning application 2015-2, special use permit, accessory dwelling unit under section 42.5.5 and section 23, schedule A, line A11, to create an accessory dwelling unit within an existing single-family house, 125 Oxbow Lane, Assessors Map 72, Lot 51, A20 R zone, R40 zone. Owner applicant Manuel Rodriguez, as shown on the submitted application map and drawings, subject to the following conditions. 1, conformance to the requirements of section 42.5.5 of the zoning regulation, and 2, adherence to all the applicable building codes and fire safety codes. The reason I approve this is It converts an accessory dwelling maintaining a single house appearance, and the proposal provides an alternate housing option that
We'll get a
enables a
second first.
family member to move in with additional care and
Let's get a second.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
I
Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries. Okay.
Okay, so next is possible action on PZ application 2015-3, which is the Northford Ice Rink. Any discussion on this?
I haven't drafted a motion. I didn't know if there would be additional discussion or if the commission would be looking for more information. It seems to me like the one point of information that Mr. Priscola pointed out was just the question of having the additional potential to expand with the 400 plus seats. So I don't know if you'd like to wait until we get something in writing from him regarding that.
Said they would remove that, just have. Said they would remove the 450 seats, just have structural for future expansion, right?
I think he was going to remove the stairs. He was just going to cover over the stairs so that there would be confusion about a later addition of the seating.
I think we were going to get some kind of clarity. I don't know what the form of the clarity was, but do we feel we need to wait till our next meeting for that?
I had one question too, in the letter from contractor about town approved dumpster enclosure design. Has that been approved? Has it been presented?
It's just being presented as part of this special use, so it hasn't been approved under a different format. It meets, I can say that it meets the zoning regulations as far as setback and enclosure, whereas before they didn't have the enclosure. They met the setback requirement, but there was no enclosure or landscaping masking it. So what they're proposing does meet the requirements.
Also, if I can just add, you actually can't take action until the WPCA takes action next week. So by default, you can't take action, I think, until the 16th anyway, because that approval has to be in place first.
Okay, so, yeah, go ahead, Dave.
So there is a current fencing requirement to maintain trash within a fenced enclosure? That's in our,
Yes.
It's aesthetics too, right?
Exactly.
Aesthetics.
It's more for aesthetics. It doesn't say to contain trash, it's just for aesthetics.
okay, I guess it's, if it's overfull and they're leaving it open, they're supposed to blow it out, so what's in they'll keep it in there and not blow it out into the wetlands.
I think more regular, it being emptied on a more regular basis, which is why I was asking the questions of frequency of emptying it. I think that's the only thing.
People come in with a big lump and fill in the dumpster, which causes it to overflow a lot.
I don't think that it's more, with a barrier, you're not going to have it blowing out, especially with cleanup. But the owner management really has to maintain the grounds for people.
Yeah,
The people are the ones that make the trash. They're the ones that throw the cups and throw the soda bottles and the cigarette butts. So maybe somewhere in there we can ask that, as a provision that it be, that he take care of the outside. Because I don't think that the issue right now with the covering of the trash containers is going to be, have to take a hurricane for it to blow up and over the fencing.
I guess to go along with that, there's other fast food restaurants in town, and I'm trying to think, they're really not, there's not a lot of trash. There's an occasional something, but they're not, blowing all over the center of town. And I guess this should fall under the same restrictions, if we have restrictions, as fast food. because there are restaurants in the high school building.
Okay. Any other discussion? We're obviously going to continue it to next time, but any further discussion tonight?
Nope.
So we will have, it has to be first reviewed and approved by the Pollution Control Agency. We'll ask for the clarification on the expansion of the 450 or whatever seats. And then we'll discuss next time if we want a condition about regular trash. We'll have a discussion next time. We don't need to do it tonight. Okay? Good. Okay, we'll continue this till the next meeting on April 16th.
Yes.
April 16th. Okay, so next order of business, under old business is PZ application 2014-15-12. It's to propose changes to the zoning regulations regarding bulk storage of liquefied natural gas, including propane, and regulation changes regarding public notice for text amendments. The applicant is Christopher Krennick. This was continued from February 19, 2015 meeting.
So at the last.
So, I'm sorry, so if you remember, we closed the public hearing, so tonight is just a zoning discussion, zoning commission discussion. So there's no public hearing, no public comment allowed.
At the last meeting, the commission requested that I reach out to the fire chief to get his input on the proposed regulations, so I have a memo that I'll pass down for everyone. And also, you requested that I reach out to the town attorney, Attorney Jesmond, and I received a legal opinion from him this evening. So I only have, as I mentioned, 3 copies of that, which the commission read at the beginning of the meeting. This all will be available in the file for the public to view, since I don't think that we're going to read these verbatim into the record, but we can just kind of summarize. Fire chief. Sure, discussion.
Any discussion points?
In lieu of the fire chief's letter and the,
Yeah, can you just talk in the
Actually, I
mic?
think your mic might be
Yeah, it
off.
might be off.
On the
On the
top.
top, just pull it towards you.
let's see, it's
The thing, the little switch on the top.
Okay, in lieu of the fire chief's letter and the letter from our attorney, I think that we have still a lot to consider about any text amendments. I feel that we should have something to protect the balance of any land, to have any more huge units, which will in no way affect Sullivan, the Sullivan site plan that's been proposed already. But the attorney's letter is quite explicit, and I believe that we have a lot to think about. I just think that if we do anything for future plans that may come up, that it should be fairly simple. And I don't think we need as much as been presented to us. I think that's way too much, too confusing. I think to not allow any more 30,000 or 60,000 gallon tanks be put, and the only place that could be put is on that, probably on that land, not on the adjoining properties. I just think the whole new amendment could be a lot simpler than what it is right now. I think you need a lawyer just to go through what's there. And it, as I say, according to Attorney Desmond, a lot of it is not even relevant. That's my opinion.
So maybe for the,
Just one other thing is there's a lot of reference to NFPA 58.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get a full copy of that. I'm getting bits and pieces, and
I have a copy.
it reads like, an IBM manual.
so I think just for the benefit of everyone there, because we're reading some, I'm going to try to summarize it. I just read, it's a long letter. I'll just summarize it. Out of respect for everyone that's been here many nights. So this is from Chief Seward. So he has a couple, the first comment is just making the distinction that liquid natural gas is not propane, and the DOT numbers are different. So they are different substances with different characteristics. We have discussion on that. So he's just highlighting that in the first paragraph. Second paragraph, let's see. He is mentioning that that propane is actually governed, or the fire laws regarding propane are covered under the general statutes in the Connecticut Fire Safety Code, which falls under NFPA and not to town zoning regulations. So the regulation of propane goes through the Fire Service, Connecticut General Statutes, Connecticut Fire Safety Code, which they adopted NFPA 58. In the next paragraph, just give me a second the third paragraph regarding the berming and so he's mentioning that booming of petroleum products actually can concentrate vapors and make a situation worse. So potentially a berming is just concentrating vapors, so you have your air fuel mixture concentrated at a point where it's maybe worse and it's maybe better to disperse. In summary, it's generally what he said. Next was, I think it's just another mention of NFPA. And then his final comment is that
that there's daily conveyance of propane through the streets and roads and Route 80. So this is happening constantly as we live today, basically, is what he's saying. I don't know if anyone else has any further comments, just to summarize that. So that was what we basically just read. So that's a summary of that. I'm not sure I can actually summarize. I haven't read so if we want to try to summarize this, unless someone's read this, I have not read this yet.
Yeah, why don't you?
Do you want me to read it?
I don't think it.
It's pretty long.
It takes a lot of thought to even understand what he's saying, you know, I mean, you have to really, it's not written like in plain English. I mean, it's plain English.
We don't have to act anyway.
No.
We
You have to act by June 2nd.
take this. I haven't read this, so I have to,
Well,
I have to kind
basically,
of digest this.
If you read the last paragraph, he's saying that
Yeah.
everything is pretty mute as far as the way it's been presented to us, the new text.
Right, because the 1,500-foot distance cannot be obtained
Right.
on any of the 4 parcels that would allow for this bulk storage of propane, which means that the project for bulk propane under these new regs couldn't happen, couldn't exist.
That's why I think that if we're going to do a text amendment for any future, and I reiterate that
Read
future
the last paragraph
parcels,
verbatim.
Do you want me to read the last paragraph?
I think so, because that summarizes what.
All right, I'm going to read the best I can. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know if there's, I haven't read it yet. So I'm going to read, this is the closing paragraph. Notwithstanding the foregoing, item number 2 so infects the other changes that the entire proposed amendment is rendered moot and nullity, not worthy of future debate or discussion, because it cannot be implemented even if approved. This suppresses any possibility of a mandatory action supported by a rational basis and diminishes the work of the Commission to nothing more than a procedural nicety.
that's why I'm saying is that as far as, I'm not going to be for the next reading edition now, but if this comes up again, my feelings is we certainly should do something for future plots, that we wouldn't allow any more large facilities like this, which, as they say, doesn't affect this whole event because we've already passed that. But it can be very simple. It should be a very simple amendment, and I don't know if I could write it, but I'm sure Carrie can do that.
Well, so one question is, I mean, there's a lot of components of the proposed regulations. One is just defining what bulk storage is, which has been a concern along the lines. One is to change it from a site plan application to a special use permit. And then putting a cap on the amount of propane that could be stored on a parcel to 5,000 gallons. And then, of course, the other more controversial components, which is based on the letters from Attorney Jesmond and Chief Seward regarding the distance from a residence of 1,500 feet, which can't be achieved anyway, and the berm, which seems to have questions from both the fire chief and the fire marshal.
I don't know why you just can't have a text amendment that says only with a special use permit can any propane storage be allowed over so many gallons. That would eliminate all the rest of it, I would think, you know, and then you can't put anything big on the other parcels, because those are the only parcels that could possibly go on anyhow. I don't know any other place in town that has anything that would allow it. So to protect the town from further, or future people coming in, whether it be Solomon or another company that wants to put in big storage units, that we have protected that land. And it just it doesn't seem like it has to be that complicated. And I'm sure you have to put in certain requirements, but
Can we do a moratorium while we study this? Is that an option?
A moratorium would be an option, but it's that would be a separate
Yeah.
action
Yeah,
from this.
From this, no, I understand, yeah.
Right.
I just meant it, because it seemed there's obviously a lot of complexities and there's a lot of different
yeah.
departments and
I mean,
a lot of discussion.
we're not lawyers, and we have to rely on our lawyer to say, other factions are going to come in and they're going to cite their proposals, and it's going to favor what they believe. But you have to look through it all, and you have to be able to base it on the people that you bank on, your fire chief, your lawyer, and whatever intelligence we all have,
Well, similar to the other text amendments that this board has passed, there was a whole process of changing it and working with the applicant to tweak it, and that's what we've been doing with Mr. Kranick, of making sure that we differentiate LNG from propane and defining bulk storage versus active usage. So maybe another question that I can ask Attorney Jesmond is, can we take parts of the proposed text amendment if the board were interested in that, such as requiring a special use permit as opposed to a site plan application for any bulk storage of propane, because that's one component of their multifaceted text
I don't see any
amendment.
reason we can't. We've
Right.
done that before.
Right. And then same thing about putting a cap, as you just spoke of.
Yeah, I mean, something that's reasonable, and, I was gonna buy the land and put a 10,000-gallon tank on it. So, if they want it, you want to stop them from putting 30 or 60,000 gallon. You want any further development for propane on the rest of the land. I think that's the objective.
Commission, any comments on that?
I don't know whether we want to consider a moratorium or just follow the town attorney's comments, that it's moot, and work on regulations. There were, one of the problems, and it's funny how you see this and nobody seemed to pick up on it, but one of the proposed regulations, it says for any application for bulk storage, never defined bulk storage. Is it, I got 2 20-pound gas containers in my garage? And I think there's maybe some definitions would be needed to work on it to help it. Under our advice from the town attorney, I don't think it'd be a good move to approve it with a moratorium.
So we would work with the applicant?
Well, we've worked with the applicant already.
Continue
so-
to work with the
well,
applicant and extract the points.
I believe.
No, I think the
that
commission would work separately.
We should
Separate,
decide
okay, I see.
ourselves
Right.
Right,
what
okay.
we want.
Right.
You worked with the applicant and tried
That's what you're
to
saying, yeah.
appease everything that they are looking for. But I think at this point, with what we have now, that we should rewrite the regulation, that's maybe taken out some of their points, and just present that. We can certainly have another public hearing on it, but at this point, I don't think we can pass what's been put before us.
Do you think that there are pieces of what's been proposed that could be
Yeah, probably.
Approved.
Probably there is, yeah.
approved under this application? If I were to draft like what we did with previous text amendments?
This it's not, I mean.
Well, and it
so-
can't differ greatly, because that would be misrepresenting what the change is. But I'm just saying, talking the things that I mentioned about a public hearing as requiring a special use permit as opposed to a site plan application, possibly a cap, whatever the commission feels like are reasonable components.
So, I have an opinion about that. I mean, I'm not prepared, if you're saying tonight.
No,
we
no,
know-
no.
Okay,
No,
not
I
not
would
tonight,
draft
because
up a
I
motion.
need to read
Right,
this.
I would draft
Yeah.
a motion, maybe like I've done with other text amendments, different options as one possibility.
Well, I think
I
that
think
in
to-
fairness to the applicant, they put in a lot of time
Yeah.
and money into what they presented, that we certainly could go through it and pick out the things that would not be objectionable, would not be confusing, or would not be, as the attorney says, that it would be, that you couldn't even do it if you wanted to, so it made it mute.
Want to table it till our next meeting?
Yeah, so you'll craft something pulling out
Yes, are
what's
there,
acceptable and maybe the objectionable things
yes.
remove, and then we can see that.
Can you summarize what you think is the highlights of things that the commission would feel would be appropriate in a text amendment based on what the applicant submitted?
I think there's some definitions needed. And one other item that concerned me was item 3, which was about the berm. And I think it's a poor practice for the commission to go into the engineering of a one-size-fits-all berm. And I think it should be up to knowledgeable people in the field as to what provides the protection.
And now you have new information from the fire chief claiming that a berm is opposite from what others are claiming. So,
I move we table this to our next meeting.
I second that.
Okay? Any discussion on that?
No?
Okay? All in favor of tabling to the next meeting?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay, motion carries. And to table this to the next meeting? The next order of business, under old business, P&Z application 2015-1. It's the proposed amendment to zoning map from R40 to B1 for 224 Foxen Road, map 22, lot 1, and 190 Totucket Road, map 22, lot 3. The applicant is Totucket Land Holdings LLC, and the Donald Capelli Jr. is the applicant. Have any referrals?
No.
So this, just for the record, so this again is,
Close the public hearing.
Yes.
yeah, the public hearing was closed last meeting, so there won't be an opportunity for public comment. This is just a commission discussion.
We have, this was something that a resident provided at the last meeting. I don't know if it's helpful to look at again.
Yeah.
That- So this is the parcel 190 Kentucky, and just some views. But it's not just that parcel that would be zoned B1, it's also 224 Foxen, which half of it, the southern half of it, is currently business. and is mostly occupied by the mobile home park.
Is the applicant here tonight?
No, well, actually he is, but the public hearing
Public
is
hearing is
closed.
No, I know it's closed, but I
Yeah.
want
Oh,
to
sure.
hear what I have to say.
Right. So one other thing just to run through real quick, and this is something that Mr. Criscola highlighted, but, so right now it's residentially zoned. If it were to be zoned B1, there's a concept plan that Mr. Capelli has shown the commission, although he's not obligated to stick to that. If the zoning is changed to B1, there are a variety of uses that could go in there. Anything that's allowed in a B1 zone, anything that you'd see along Foxton Road is a good example for the most part. But I also just wanted to point out that it would also, any development would have to go through site plan review. And that's just for a site plan application, or if it's a U for a special use permit, it would be a public hearing. So a lot of those things that you're aware of, but just to state, you know, that they would have to look at the bulk of the buildings, make sure that it complies with setback, coverage requirements, appropriate vehicular access, drainage, grading, sidewalk areas where appropriate, emergency services, drainage, wetlands, parking, outside storage, lighting, landscaping. So Mr. Criscola highlighted all these things, but I feel like our zoning regulations do a good job of checking off all of those components of a site plan that would be reviewed as part of the process.
So, commission, any
Yeah.
comments?
I have some comments to make. I know that economic development is important, and certainly it would be better for the town, for tax base, to have it be a business zone rather than a residential zone, a couple of houses going there, but I feel that the residents have to take priority over economic development. And their feelings should certainly be taken into consideration. So the only way, and it won't get passed tonight, but I really wanted to get on the record my thoughts so that you'd have them their worth, that I could only see approving it to a business is if there was no driveway on Tutucket, because I don't believe that anywhere in the near future there is going to be a resolution to the traffic or the drainage. That's, even if he's going to put in drainage, it's not going to resolve the problems. There's way too much traffic on Tutucket, so he'd have to have access through Route 80, which he can do. That the front of the building be such that it would conform with residential. In other words, he could have all his garages in the back. He could have some dormers, some shutters, a decent front door, so that it conforms with the neighborhood, you know, with a residential area, rather than some flat building with, you know. And the other would be that he would plant evergreens all across Tutucket Road. I know that would add some cost to the applicant, but I also realize the applicant is benefiting far more than the little bit of cost that it's going to cost him. And I think that this is a way for the residents that live in this area to feel comfortable. That's really, otherwise I'd have to, myself, have to deny it.
Okay, thanks, Fran. Any other comments, discussion?
I feel like I'm sitting next to Solomon. I think that.
Who?
That's beautiful. You know, I'm really torn on this one too, because it's R40 and you have the residents, but on the same token, a little further down the road, you have the wire mill, you have Spazano, you have heavy truck industry coming down to Tilcott Road. You have a traffic light at the Tilcott Road. That's That's traffic control. To put trucks out, 50, 100 feet from the traffic light is dangerous. That being the case, I'm going to have to piggyback on Fran. You know, you need to make it pretty to make us happy. And I know you already have a driveway down onto Token Road.
Would have to be eliminated.
So let me
No,
just,
I'm-
let me
I-
just clarify, so,
There we disagree.
folks,
We disagree.
Commission, Rob, we can discuss traffic, but we can't put conditions like right now, because this is not a site plan. All we're doing is a zoning change, so we can't discuss, we can discuss it, but you can't say, I'll approve it if you put
Yeah,
trees and if you
yeah.
make the side of the house
Yeah,
look good,
I-
because that's
I
a
don't think-
site plan. I just want to make sure we're
I
clear.
understand
That's
that.
a site plan. We're
It
not
is.
at that phase. All we're doing tonight is looking at the zone change. So traffic is relevant, things like that, but not, we can't say, I will approve it if you put trees. That's the site plan. That's not.
I realize that, but once you approve
Is
it
that accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
to a business.
No, I just-
Your hands are tied. So
Right.
I wanted it to be understood
understand.
that otherwise I would have to, my own vote would be to deny it.
I'm just,
And I'm sure that's not-
Fran, I'm not, I value your opinion very much. I just want to clarify for the
Okay,
commission
I
what
understand.
what we're dealing with and what's in our purview tonight. It is not, that is a purview of ours when we get to the site plan if we
I
get there.
understand that.
Tonight is just a zoning change.
At least the-
And
at
it's
least
not
the-
relevant to the zoning change.
Right, but the applicant knows where we're,
Yeah, no, that's
Where
fine.
we're
I
coming
just,
from.
I was just clarifying for us so we don't,
Well, and that's where you have to put your faith in the zoning regulations, because once if it's changed to B1, then anything in a B1 can go.
Right. So into that.
Right, but that being said, a site plan application would have to come before this commission to be reviewed, and that's when you can look at traffic and landscaping and making sure that it fits within the character of the neighborhood, and that's where you can set those conditions. But you can't say,
No, I know that, I
Right.
realize that.
That's all, I was just
Because
clarifying.
I needed to get it on
Mhm.
record how
Mhm.
I felt about it. So if this does get put into a B1, that these would be the stipulations that would have to, on the site plan. And yes, you would have to have faith that the gentleman, the applicant will do these things or fall back on our regulations. That gives us some latitude. But also, if he changes his mind, this is a large piece of land that could be turned into anything. And, you know, here, there's stories of putting in drugstores and this, that, and the other. You know, so I'm concerned about it.
I guess one just question I have, I don't know who was on the commission when the plan of conservation and development was passed, but in the plan of conservation and development, not only these two parcels, but actually the parcel on the corner and then going to the west was also included as B1. So I'm just curious as to what discussions came about when that was looked at and decided to go from R40 to B1 for that entire area, not just the parcels that we're talking about tonight. Because it
Which
seems like
parcels?
something has changed.
Which parcels were
I'll show you.
I have an opinion about that. I mean, I think it was basically, we hired a consultant to do this, and when you look at the map of North Branford, you can see these areas that kind of, it's like, well, there is a potential.
those? Yeah.
So it wasn't like
Right.
we said, that's the greatest place to develop.
Right, that's
We,
exactly the way it
it
came
said,
about.
the consultant looks and says, well, there's a spot here, and then you could probably do it here too.
Yeah, you're
And I'm not
right.
saying I disagree or agree,
No,
but
That's exactly.
that's,
what happened.
that's, I think, how it got to that point.
The other
Because it
thing
may,
is-
it has the potential,
I thi-
where other places don't, sorry.
I think the other thing is, rather than creating a spot zone somewhere else,
Yeah,
you're expanding an existing business zone.
that's correct. Right.
And I can't ever remember where zone change has come up, and it's specifically recommended in the plan of development.
Was that plan of conservation developed before the neighborhood went in?
No, it's a 10-year plan, so it's probably 7 years old now, so I don't know, 7, I don't know when it was.
The houses there aren't that old either, about the same age, right? So
I
those
think the houses are old.
back there.
Right, it's about
It's 2010, right?
six years ago.
Right?
Yeah, there's-
2009.
And there was
Okay.
houses there 2 years when they were forming on the street.
Yeah, it's been there a while.
So it does, here's just an excerpt from it that just says, this is from the Plan of Conservation and Development, and it just speaks to the northwest quadrant of the intersection of Route 80 and Tutucket Road. There are parcels of vacant land in a residentially zoned area on the west side of Tutucket behind the B2 zoned Route 80 frontage. It's actually B1, I don't know why they said B2, but the residential parcels are owned by the same party that owns the commercially zoned area, and the owner has requested a zone change. The zone change to B2 would be appropriate.
So that property was not owned at that time, and there was a house there, so it wasn't vacant property.
The house is B1 now. I'm pretty sure that.
On the
I was
corner.
on a corner.
It is B1.
Yes.
Oh, that is B1.
The house that was torn down, that they wanted to convert, and R40 to B1 now, it wasn't vacant, there was a house there.
Still R40, yeah.
Right.
So, yeah,
Or
There was a house on that.
so,
It's a hard choice. I mean, my concern is for the future. And even if we change this to B1 and the applicant decides that he's going out of business, you have that whole frontage plus going up to Tucket, this parcel of land that they want to change. It could be anything. And I just feel that even though economic development is important, and it's certainly important for us to have more businesses for our tax structure, we cannot just ignore the residents that live in these areas, because if it's this area, it could be next door to you the next time. So I think you have to make real consideration about it. And I know that we can't do anything, what I mentioned, it has to be the site plan, and if you can assure me that in the site plan we can demand these things, that would be one thing. But that's where I stand anyhow.
comment? Go ahead, you had a comment. Question? Comment?
We left with a question. In a site plan, can we demand certain architectural design?
Generally,
Yeah, generally. You can
Sometimes
ask,
it takes a battle,
yeah.
like for McDonald's, you know,
Did you hear the question?
to get it, not getting it
In
ready.
a site plan, can we demand
Standard
certain
McDonald's.
architectural features in a certain one?
The only time I lost the battle
No,
was
I mean, it's not, can you demand certain architectural features in the site plan? Not
No,
other.
they
gas station.
comment, but you don't have all the
We don't have
discretion.
the- we don't have the
Local
facade.
station.
If they
had the
they
facade
comply, they comply.
If we had
If,
facade
in certain
requirements.
areas of town, like the Northford
Chairman
Center
there.
and Branford Center, then there's the
They
overlay
went and
district.
approved everything.
You can
still
push,
have
I mean,
them.
that's people do, but you can't, if they comply, they comply.
So we could strongly encourage, but we're following if they're following our zoning regs, we have to follow our zoning regs.
Yeah,
We could strongly encourage and try to collaborate, but we can't demand it look exactly this way with this side shutter.
right.
Unless if our zoning regs said that, then we could, but it's not in our zoning regs.
And I think today, developers realize getting into a fist fight over something is not the way to develop. And as we've seen, the ice pavilion, issues were raised, and the owner says he's going to make good on it.
requiring access from 80 and not Totucket, is that something that is not, yeah, 'cause it's.
No, we could look at traffic,
Yeah.
but not require access onto Totucket because it only has frontage on, Foxen. It only has frontage on Totucket, so we couldn't require access onto Foxen.
Okay.
Because there's another parcel in between that, not to mention topography. There's also another use on that currently.
So the three
Even though
lots
the
don't-
owner is the
The three
same.
lots don't butt up to this piece of property. I thought it was
They
kind of
do.
all attached.
They
Go-
do.
It goes through an
So
existing.
the middle piece of property where the company is right now, you couldn't go straight through there to the back piece?
Topography, I think, would be difficult. And
Topography, right?
and there's the RV park
Yeah.
in between.
Plus, we can't mandate that.
Right.
We can't mandate that. Even part of the site plan, right? Part of the site plan?
Right, because it only has frontage on Totucket, so
Yeah. Right.
it just happens that the same person owns both parcels. But if they didn't, we couldn't require it because then they would have to cross on someone else's land.
So,
All on it,
huh?
all on it for a couple of weeks, bring it back. The idea of voting on it?
We have time.
So,
There's
one thing we can do is we can take it back for a couple weeks and mull it around come back in 2 weeks and discuss further, possibly take action. We're not pressured whatsoever to do it tonight. Although we want to give some resolution at some point, but we have time. Is that
Well,
something?
The only issue is, this isn't much fair to the applicant. I'm sure he would stick it going with this. And everything kind of depends on whether he gets his zoning change or not. So if the board has any other thing to say, they should speak up.
It's just discussion within the commission, though. There's obviously no public hearing,
Right.
so.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not rushed. We need time to think
Yeah.
about it.
So I think
Okay,
I just heard
table
something.
it. Why don't you take this as the applicant does?
I'm really looking just for everyone's gut feeling here. David, do you have any opinion on this? We can continue it 2 weeks. There's no pressure on us. There's no pressure on the applicant. Or if we feel we have enough and we feel we can make, huh?
I don't have any questions, I have enough, make my decision.
You have enough? Ron? No more time needed? Fran?
Yeah,
I'm ready. On the vote.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I drafted 2 motions.
Do we have the either one? Do we
I'm
gauge-
sure for tonight.
do we gauge which way we're going? Do we have that discussion? No.
No, someone would just have to make a motion and then.
Then let's see where it
and then
goes.
I
second.
move to approve P&Z application 2015-1, petition of Don Capelli to amend the North Branford zoning map, changing parcel 224 Foxen Road and 190 Totucket Road from R40 to B1 zone. Second?
Anyone second?
Second.
Ron seconds. All in favor?
You want a roll call?
Yeah, let's maybe we'll do a roll call. That's a good idea.
I vote aye, and I think because the proposed change is consistent with the plan of development and it gives us a little more land for business, which Lord knows we need.
David?
Vote no. That's proposal for the traffic and residential concerns of a law firm.
For traffic and residential concerns?
I vote no due to the residential and traffic concerns that were brought forward in the public session.
I vote yes for the reasons that Charlie quoted.
I'm sorry, but I have to vote no, only because I'm, too many concerns that we won't be able to fix this under a site plan.
And I'm going to vote yes. It's something we designated in our site plan of conservation and development. I think we can work with the applicant and certainly the engineer on the site plan to get something that's hopefully appealing to the folks in the area. So the motion carries 3-2. Thank you. Next is under old business C. It's PZ application 2014-15-6. It's the site development plan installation of propane bulk storage facility and office building garage, associated driveways, parking, lighting, utilities, stormwater management, landscaping, and sign, 40 Cira Road. Owner applicant Don Fucci. So this item continues to be continued indefinitely until the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection reviews the application and provides us, the Planning and Zoning Commission, with a report. So we will continue that indefinitely. Next, under other business, 7A, bond release, PZ application 2005-0622, re-subdivision of 942 Totucket Road.
That's being continued. They're actually going to go to wetlands first to make some changes and then come back to planning and zoning, most likely in May, for that bond release request.
Okay, that'll be continued. Next, excuse me, under other business, update on 50 Fowler Road.
Okay, so in your packet, I've outlined kind of some current events that have happened at 50 Fowler Road, so I'll just run through those. And Patrick Rowland, the environmental intervenor, is here, as well as Attorney Sachs, who's representing Cherry Hill. So as you're aware, just going back a little bit further, this property is the over 55 development at 50 Fowler Road. There were 2 cease and desist issued, one by this board through me, the zoning enforcement officer, and then also the Inland Wetlands Agency issued their own cease and desist due to concerns about a lack of required permits, specifically the DEP stormwater permit, a lack of sedimentation and erosion controls being installed and maintained, and then question about material either being left on site and not removed before construction activity started, or that it was brought on site, including leaf compost piles. So I've been working with the property owner over the past few months to try and bring the site into compliance. They went before the ZBA, you'll remember, to request an appeal of the cease and desist. However, there weren't enough members. There were only 4 members as opposed to the 5, so they opted to continue to the next meeting, which is being held on April 20th. So where things stand now is that the Wetlands Agency, as well as this board, recommended that the property owner actually hire a third-party engineer. So they've done that, and that engineer is Michael Harkin. And he has required that the property owner install sedimentation and erosion controls on the interior of the site. The exterior of the site was sufficient, needed some repairs here and there, but they really needed to tighten up the interior of the site. So I was on site for several hours with the third-party engineer, the property owner, and Doug Anderson, who's the developer, and also a member of the Wetlands Agency to look at and identify a lot of those erosion controls. So those were actually installed on March 23rd and 24th, which in the engineer's words brought the site from a B rating to an A rating. And he represented this and presented this information to the Wetlands Agency at their last meeting on March 25th. The property owner has since applied for and received a DEP stormwater permit, that's the general permit. The state, though, has also required that they need an industrial stormwater permit. So I'm not sure exactly where that stands. I believe maybe Attorney Sachs can bring us up to speed on that. The applicant received the notice of violation dated March 3rd, which is what triggered the requirement for an industrial stormwater permit. So that seems like it's in the works, but again, we can get a status update. The Wetlands Agency, based on the work that the property owner has done to date, decided to modify their cease and desist. So what they modified it to, I'll pass out this. This is a copy of the modification. And basically it says that as a result of applying for and receiving the stormwater permit, hiring a third-party engineer, working with that engineer to install the proper sedimentation and erosion controls, and also doing sampling and testing, they have decided to modify the cease and desist. And the modification allows for the property owner to remove any stockpiled material that's not being tested or was already tested with no further excavation allowed beyond the existing grade except as directed for erosion control. So I wanted to provide that update. Michael Harkin is walking through the door right now. And also, the other work that the Wetlands Agency requested be completed are test pits. So this memo that I'm passing down now, this highlights test pits that were dug just this past Tuesday. And the property owner agreed to have test pits dug at whatever location the commission, actually the Wetlands Agency requested. So again, it was myself, Michael Harkin, and Jerry Fishback of the Wetlands Agency. And what we did was, if you look at this second page, this is a Google Earth map, and the pins just identify where 10 test pits were dug. And in summary, test pit R3 and R4 were two locations where we came up with material that was not fully native, meaning we saw there was rebar in it, pieces of plastic, pieces of metal, pieces of pipe that were encased in concrete. And it made up, I would say, between 10 to 20% of the hole that we dug. The depths of the holes varied. Some locations closer to the southeastern portion of the site, over by R8, R6, R9, we could only get down 3 to 5 feet because there was a lot of ledge there. But R3 and R4 were between 15 and 18 feet deep. And that's where we encountered the material. And at R2, there was a piece of asphalt that was found that had road striping on it. There are pictures of these in the back of this memo as well. And then at R8, there was native material with some pieces of brick. What seems like to be the current debate now is what's acceptable fill. The state allows for brick, asphalt, concrete, pieces of asphalt, pieces of brick, not full pieces, not full brick, not asphalt millings, but it has to meet a certain standard. That doesn't allay the concerns of the Wetlands Agency. I can speak for them, and I'm not sure how the commission feels. But one potential recommendation is to definitely have the engineer of record make sure that this is appropriate fill. And I don't know if a building is supposed to be located there or a road, which having some kind of a sign off to make sure that that's appropriate fill.
If they're blasting there and taking rock off the property, why are they bringing fill in?
I'll let you speak to that.
If I could speak to that, I don't believe that the issue is material that is being brought in.
Do you want to just identify yourself?
Sure,
Sorry.
yeah, sorry. Greg Sachs on behalf of Mullerbrook and Anderson Wilcox. I don't believe it's an issue over fill that's being brought in. I think it's an issue over material that was actually processed on the site. As you well know, the background of the site is a dumping ground for some 40 years, so there was a considerable amount of material that was taken off the site. I think in excess of 30 dumpsters, junk cars, buildings that were demolished on site, and the material was processed on site. Michael Harkin, who is the independent engineer who's been hired, I think could kind of speak to that first, and I think once he gives his presentation, I think we'll be in a better position to answer any questions that the commission may have. In fact, I think after his presentation, I think most of your questions will be answered. Is that fair? Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. You guys ready for Michael?
Sure.
Good evening, everybody. For the record, my name is Michael Harkin. I'm a professional engineer and principal of Harkin Engineering, located at 70 Wolf Hollow Lane in the town of North Connecticut. Again, I'm here tonight as an independent third-party engineer for this project at Notch Hill Village. The reason that I am in front of you when I was hired was basically through the Wetlands Commission first. We presented our credentials to the Wetlands Commission, as well as the developer decided that I was a good fit because I was completely independent. I had no previous work experience with any of the developers, as well as we usually do not do work in the town of North Branford. So based on that, we conducted a preliminary review on March 19th of the subject property based on some concerns that the wetlands had. I was there with myself, members of the town. We went through for about 2 hours, walked the entire site. We came back with some recommendations for erosion control measures that had to be installed. That same day, we actually performed some soil testing of 2 distinct piles. The first was a compost pile that I believe was brought in, developer claims from the town of North Haven. The second pile was a fairly large pile of processed materials, some bricks, some asphalt, some concrete, mixed with the native soils. So we basically went through with the testing lab and tested both piles. That was a requirement through the wetlands. Both piles basically came back negative for contaminants. There's a whole slew of testing that we did. We will present, and I got them in my office today, the actual reports that were marked draft. The previous, the lab had sent over, they were marked draft. So they are the real deal. We'll get those into the town. Subsequently, after that meeting, we went back to the developer with our concerns about the erosion controls. He basically gave us any machine, any manpower that we wanted to get the site that we feel was in good operating condition. So we spent about 3 to 4 days out there, adding temporary sediment traps and things of that nature on the site. That was about 2 weeks ago. The site has been working beautifully. The town and myself, my office has been out there doing inspections. Everything is basically in tip-top shape as far as the water and the cleanliness coming off the site. With the erosion controls, it's a work in progress. As things start to happen at the site, somebody's got to be on top of it, monitoring the amount of silt, making sure all the water and all the controls remain in a good operating condition. One of the other requirements that was made, and I don't know if it was made by the Planning and Zoning Commission or the wetlands, was to test some of the in-place, the in-situ material on the site. Again, we went in front of the Inland Wetlands Commission, and we virtually asked where they would like to test. One of the members came out there with us, and specifically went around and picked out the testing locations. So I believe we tested 10 individual locations. Carrie summarized them. I did see an email today, what we found, what was there. I believe there's a slew of pictures for you as well. We can discuss that in more detail and I can answer any questions that you may have. The other aspect of this project was the client, Notch Hill Village, did not have a stormwater general permit for the project. One of our jobs and tasks was to make sure that they in the end did have that. We pushed them through that last month. It's my belief that they do have a permit number. It is on file. I do not know if they've received a physical hard copy yet. That's something I should ask Mr. Sachs. He's here tonight. So that's one thing. The other thing that was brought up from DEP was the requirement for an industrial stormwater permit, whether that was required on the site. I actually went up to DEP and met with Donna Saracen, who basically made those statements, and what it came down to is, yes, they did need an industrial stormwater permit. They, I believe, hired the original design firm, which was Nathan Young, to do that, so I believe that's in the works. Again, you can ask Mr. Sachs, proper paperwork has been submitted. The last wetlands meeting, the cease and desist was modified based on the compliance of the erosion controls, the stormwater permit, and the results from the piles being tested. Coming back clean. I did receive preliminary documents from the testing that we just did this week on the in situ material, and the preliminary results looks like that comes back clean, free of any toxins or chemicals as well. So, with those things being said, one of the points with the industrial stormwater permit, and we have to make, pretty much loud and clear, is that there can be no blasting on the site until that permit is issued. There can be no more processing of any of that rock material that's on site, and no work with regards to any of the industrial aspects of this project. Okay? Most of the work right now is located, and I'll point it out on the map, in the northerly portion. There's a knob still remaining, anywhere, a fair guess is around 50,000 yards in there that still has to be blasted and taken out. You do the math, that's probably 2 to 3 months of work that still remains to get that down to the correct level. That location is located virtually in the cul-de-sac over in this area. Actually, in that, just to make it clarified, I think I said the northerly portion, it's actually in the southerly portion of the map, originally designed by Nathan Young. So I know there were some other concerns that the commissions had and the town had. One of them was a culvert that seemed to be plugged up, and I think, Carrie, did you go down there, or Kurt, did you go down there? I think, members from the town staff went down there to take a look at it. And they can report back on that as well, the condition. I think one of the requirements or one of the requests was to have that cleaned out. And I don't know if that's been done at this time or needs to be done, but the town did go down there and look at that. So, in general, with the stockpiles, DEP has allowed them, basically to be moved off-site if need be. Any of the piles, any of the materials. That's part of the best management practices of cleaning the site. As far as the 2 piles that were tested, I believe the wetlands said they cannot do anything with those piles until the results came back. They did come back clean. I believe the compost was bought on site to be mixed with topsoil. That's kind of a general practice on a construction site. I don't see any problem with that. Mixing it and then dispersing it. The other pile, a large pile of the created material, that's clean. Technically, there could be a place for that on site. I'm not in with the construction phasing and where things have to be placed. But, as far as we're concerned right now, that can stay on site. Again, I can't tell you if it's going to be road based. I can't tell you if it's going to be, foundation structural material. But it also could leave the site if needed to. So, with that being said, Carrie had asked me to come to tonight's meeting. I think she said to be here at 9 o'clock, and I was pretty much right on, maybe a few minutes shy. But if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them if I can after that, or if you want to listen to other members of the audience first and then come back to me, more than receptive for that as well.
Did you mention the industrial wastewater permit? Did you mention that?
Yes.
60 days.
It's a general time frame for the question is, with the industrial stormwater permit, how long does it take to be implemented? The quickest you can have an industrial stormwater permit fast-tracked up at the DEP is 60 days. And that's from the date of submission, okay? One of the forms with that is that you have to have what they call a URL, an address, whoever's preparing it, which is, I believe, the design firm at Nathan Young. When they submit the application, and that address that's listed online, so townspeople, staff can go and look at
Oh, he
it,
doesn't know.
there are 60 days before approval of that.
So you don't know if that was submitted then?
I do not know, but I think Mr. Sachs is
Yeah,
here,
okay.
and he can clarify that.
I'm just curious, because I know I know they were trying to, because spring is a good time to crush rock for the dust control. That would be nice if we had that sooner than later, as long as it met inland wetlands and we were okay with everything. So it'd be nice if that was.
Yeah, they had until today, the 2nd, to submit a letter to Donna Searson at DEP with their intent to work on the stormwater permit. At the last wetlands meeting, I was told that they had engaged their services. I don't know if that letter was sent to Donna yet, but the representative's here and that's correct.
My understanding is that is now in the works. My understanding is they're going to do everything they can to try to fast track that in the commentary period. And our hope is, as Michael indicated, that we will get that permit in the shortest time period possible. Nonetheless, as part of the permit requirement, the general stormwater discharge permit has indeed been received, and we are physically in possession of it.
Right, yeah, okay, good.
Can I throw something in there? Just as a friendly reminder.
You could just identify yourself, sorry.
Pardon me, Patrick Rowland, I'm the intervener. The Robert Saxon Mungerbrook Associates was notified on January 20th that they needed this permit. And so the fact that they still have yet to file it, and at the last inland wetlands meeting, it was indicated that it's just a rubber stamp of the prior permit for the regular general stormwater permit, and it's a $500 fee. So I'm kind of curious as to why it's taken them more than 60 days. If they'd have filed it when it was originally noticed in their original notice of violation from the state of Connecticut, we'd already be done. So and everybody has actually said to me both before and during the meeting that I'm causing consternation and difficulty and problems, when in fact here was a letter from the state of Connecticut telling and indicating that this permit needed to be applied for in January, and they just ignored it, or fought it, or just didn't believe it. It's a $500 permit. Apply for the stupid thing.
I think the reason why the industrial stormwater permit wasn't applied for, number one, it wasn't part of either the Inland Wetlands Commission approval or the Planning and Zoning Commission approval. Moreover, typically in a development of this nature, the industrial stormwater permit wouldn't be necessary, but instead only the general discharge permit itself. We just, despite the fact that we made our very best pitch at the DEP to obviate the need for the industrial stormwater permit, they nonetheless feel as if it's something that's necessary. We are acquiescing, we are moving forward on doing that.
Without that permit, no work can be done?
Without that permit, sir, what can't be done is we can't blast and crush the material that Mr. Harkin had talked about right there until we receive that, the crushing and blasting of that material cannot be done. Correct.
Well, and also, with the current cease and desist issued by the Planning and Zoning Commission, they also are not directed to do any changing of the grade. There's been debate back and forth about if they can actually move material that has already been blasted if they're not changing the grade, but it's my understanding that they can't. But
Have you confirmed with Donna Searson at the state whether or not that she felt that any industrial activity on the site, which includes the blasted rock, because that was actually what created the industrial permit in the first place, was the blasted rock is a byproduct of the quarry, which is being sold, which made it tantamount to operating a quarry.
I believe through Mr. Harkin's meeting with Donna Saracen that she had said that activity cannot occur.
Nothing for everybody.
Basically, you can remove the piles, you cannot crush, and you cannot, manufacture that material. That rock has to stay. The question was, can that rock leave? That blasted rock has to stay. That's part of that industrial stormwater permit. Those piles can be taken off.
The piles can.
Well, is it big rock, little rock? What's the definition? All the blasted rocks. That's what she told me.
So I'm going to read this into the record. So this is an email that Patrick Rowland received from Donna Saracen on March 30th. They have 30 days to respond to the NOV, which is notice of violation. I have no idea about the compost. My area is stormwater, industrial, parentheses mining. If industrial activity related to the site is taking place, then they are operating in violation. Sometime in the future, I will be conducting a follow-up inspection depending on their response or if they fail to respond. Please remember I am one person and I cover the whole state, and at present there are 1,500 plus permitted facilities. So I'm just confused. So she said if industrial activity related to the site is taking place. Mr. Harkin, did she define industrial activity? Is that blasting, processing, crushing?
That's when I met with her up at DEP, that was her take on the industrial activity. But those large, if there's large boulders there, obviously that's part of the industrial process. I don't remember seeing large 3-4 cubic yard boulders located on the site. Just piles of small crushed stuff, pipe backfill, stuff like that. There is a large chunk of knob, and they really can't even go in there at this juncture. They can't touch it, they can't scrape it, they can't hammer it. Anything of trying to take down that knob is a big no-no.
So when I've been on site as a zoning enforcement officer, I haven't seen blasting. I know that the fire marshal has not issued a blasting permit. I have not seen the crusher operated.
Nor are we requesting that tonight. In fact, what we're requesting is simply the modification of the cease and desist, if not vacating it, to operate on the site short of blasting or crushing the material until we are in receipt of the industrial permit, which is probably close to 60 days out.
So similar to the inland wetlands,
Correct.
right? I mean, it's gonna align with the same processes as you can do and can't do. So inland wetlands, we approved that, right?
Modification, right?
We approved the modification to allow for certain.
The inland wetlands did.
Inland wetlands did. To modify the cease and desist to allow for certain activities that are allowed under the general stormwater permit. But the industrial stormwater permit, which covers the rock crushing,
And that would be
has to stay in force.
That would be removing all this material that is in piles now, but not touching anything else, right?
That's fair to say.
Correct.
Yeah, the general permit, it covers the removal of the piles. That's a specific question I asked. Were we taking the developer completely out of it and not allowing them to work at all? And what the legal ramification was that by completely shutting them down and not giving them the option to even put the silt fence and put the erosion control in, which is a best management practice trying to do this thing. One of the things is, if they so choose to take those piles off, they can be able to take those piles off, but they can't process and basically crush more material or do any of that type of work on the subject site.
What else would they be permitted to do at this point besides remove piles?
Well, if the cease and desist is lifted, they could.
No, I mean if it's modified.
Oh, if it's modified. They could do, I guess, road work. I don't know that they're really at that stage. Could they?
Well, I mean, I think step 1 and step 2 were the only things that we
Right.
approved for,
That's
which is the removal operation.
Right.
They have to come back, in my recollection, for any other step or any change in place. But they're only approved for removal of materials in step 1 and step 2, initially.
I'm still kind of confused here that we have, Michael, if you could help us out with my math a little bit. If it's about 400 feet across in the parcel, and Carrie's notes have that R1, 2, 3, and 4. So essentially, in those several pits that we could dig down reasonably deep, the rest of the pits we couldn't get very deep because we had ledge. So in all of these pits that we went up to 18 feet deep, we found things that weren't native, and they're not on the original permit, not only at wetlands, they're also not on the original zoning permit. So there's all this extra fill, and if my math serves me right, I do somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 by 200 by 18 feet is 720,000 cubic feet, or somewhere about the 50,000 cubic yards of rock that's there now. So I query, why is it that we're having to come to a board, not only the wetlands, but also the planning and zoning, when there's no non-native material on site in any of this development, and we now have several pits that have tens of thousands, if not 100,000 cubic yards of stuff put here, that you could have taken that 50,000 cubic yards off the back of the property and used that properly for the fill and the location in the area as you originally designed. So I understand that there's some pits and there's been some stuff tested, and Kerry told us we went there a day or two, and I just got a copy of this afternoon. But I realize that I'm only allowed to talk about pollution and things of that nature, but I'm significantly concerned when I see 2 or 3 of the 4 pits that you actually dug into has stuff in it that we've sworn up and down one side from Sunday and next to the other, that there is no non-native material on site. And so this, again, I kind of implore the board to wait, let it go through its process, continue with the testing. I'd actually ask for a whole lot more testing, to be perfectly honest with you. 5 or 6 of those pits are very close together over in one corner. In those areas where there was some significant depth in what you've done, there's almost no pits from 3 and 4 all the way back to the front gate, were there?
Yes, 2.
Okay.
R1 and R10.
Okay, I don't remember seeing R10.
Isn't, when we speak of native stuff, I thought I heard somewhere that there was a lot of existing junk on the site anyway, so
But 10% of 50,000 cubic yards.
Yeah, no, I'm not disputing, I'm just trying to understand the facts. So I just want to clarify for maybe the commission too. So native doesn't mean pristine, clean topsoil. Native means what was there, right? So that could mean a lot of junk too, right? So that could explain it. I'm not saying it does.
It was existing dumps that could have been there from 30 years ago.
But we
That's
also took
entirely
30 dumpsters out at the very beginning, and all of this was supposed to be removed from the property, both for the wetlands permit as well as the planning and zoning permit, have a criteria, not just to make sure that all permits are in hand before any of the work is done, but that all debris that wasn't native be removed before they started construction. So it's kind of miraculous that we've been able to hide and bury all of this stuff, put a little bit of rock over it, and haul everything else out during this entire process. So while it may or may not have been there, I'm not suggesting that we test and find out how old the cement is or anything like that. All I'm saying is that it wasn't supposed to be buried. It was supposed to be removed as part of not only the planning and zoning's permit, as well as the inland wetlands. And I think that you've got a duty, now that you've found stuff that isn't the correct way, is to make sure that not only Mr. Harkin, and again, I said this to inland wetlands, is that much of this is temporary, and all of this stormwater and pollution controls, I think that you need to see Mr. Harkin every 2 weeks for the next 3 years while this project continues, because we got here only because I got up and said something and somebody actually listened and did the work. We missed all of this. This went on for 2 or 3 years and nobody did anything, and so I think that you should continue, not only with your cease and desist, let it run through its proper course, but I would continue to have Mr. Harkin continue and reply to you every 2 weeks with a continuing update as to what's going on this property.
Do you have, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, because you're kind of the third-party expert, PE, right, engineer on this. Do you have an opinion about that in terms of native? What are you finding in there? Could it be stuff that was existing there?
It's hard to say. Obviously, I did not see the site before it was developed. I didn't walk it. I don't know how much junk was there. I don't know what was there. I hear the claims that there was a building there was a lot of junk, and then I hear the claims from the other side that there was really not that much there whatsoever. I don't know. I don't know if there was a bunch of brick, a bunch of asphalt. And what's the definition of native? Is it native as in pristine, like you alluded to? Natural occurring soils, which we did hit in some test holes, and I'll move that in a second. or is native, the site prior to construction, which could have had all that debris in there that mixed in.
Right.
You know, me coming in 6 weeks ago, 7 weeks ago, I can't tell you.
Yeah.
I
No,
can't tell
that's
you that,
true.
I can't answer the question, you know, was it truck on, was it not? But what I can tell you is, obviously from an environmental standpoint, brick, concrete, asphalt is not native material. You know, it is a foreign material. But that's not to say that's a bad material. If you go over the Q Bridge right now, you can see 70 feet high of virtually the same stuff, crushed up asphalt, brick, that they're using as fill to build a roadway. You also see it on all the rest areas getting redone. There's piles of it. That's why the crusher's there. They use it, you know, they crush it, and then they put it back on there for underlayment for different types of structural, common fill types of things, and even embankment.
It's interesting that you should say that. I hate to interrupt for 2 seconds. I checked with the state of Connecticut, and they actually have permits for those. They've actually asked permission to use that material, and they've told people ahead of time that they're using that material, as opposed to not asking permission ahead of time.
Yeah. So I think I heard Kerry say you were going to look into whether they can use that material? Like maybe, I thought I heard maybe crushed brick's okay, but we didn't know if full brick? Did you say something like that? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
no, that's news to me. Nobody's asked me to do that. If you guys would like me to do that, I could definitely look into that. Usually when stuff's run through the crusher, it's a nice fine aggregate, and you have that tested to find out, you know, where you can put it on site.
Yeah.
The material that's on site, can it be used someplace? Yes, absolutely. There is a home for it somewhere on the site. I just can't tell you right now whether it's road-based, whether it's structural based on our foundation, or if it's just common fill for the yards.
Yeah, I think I meant the stuff that's in the ground, right? Is that what you were referring to?
For Mr. Harkin to look at?
Yeah.
What I was
Yeah,
talking
I'm
about
sorry.
was, Kurt actually had some information in the office that we were looking at, that he shared with me, just what's appropriate per DEP regulations going back to, I think it was 2009. And it was a question of
Yeah, well,
whether or
I think
not
it was a 2006 publication. They haven't changed the regulation. They were talking about it, and what is acceptable fill.
And in that, it spoke to the concrete, brick, and asphalt, so long as there were pieces of those.
Okay.
I heard mention that is in the earlier permit that they were required to remove all debris from the site. I'm assuming when they got the original permit, someone did an on-site evaluation of the property and would have an indication of what debris was on the property, an amount of debris. And what was going to be removed and what wasn't going to be removed. Is crushed rock considered, crushed brick considered debris or fill?
Give me your name and
Good evening,
address.
Robert Sachs. I actually cleaned the site up originally, right? There was 30 loads of wood, cars, and by the way, that wood and cars are still left in phase 3. And if you go down the Old Dump Road, you'll see it. Because that section of the yard was never cleared, and you're not gonna get rid of all this material until you cut the trees and have access to it. Concrete, brick, asphalt, by DEP definition, not by my definition or the engineer's definition, by DEP's definition, is clean fill. It is not junk and it's not debris. Now, when we had to clean the junk and debris, we would not take off the concrete. We would not take off, that's clean fill by any regulation. By 2006 publication, that is clean fill. Okay, it could be used anywhere. It could be used in a parking lot. It could be used, it's used in your own site to get down.
Except for the town of North Branford has outlawed it.
It's
in your own town regulations.
It's used on a DOT,
199.3.
excuse me, it's allowed on a DOT site. The DOT uses it, the state uses it, the town uses it. The town reclaims asphalt and reuses it. That is clean fill by the state DEP regs. That is not junk and debris. Junk and debris is wood, is metal. Okay, that's junk and debris. The stuff that you found in those test pits was native soil. We took 50,000, with Kurt and Kerry looked at the screening plan. We screened 50,000 yards of rock out of the dirt. The dirt went to Pfizer and the rock stayed on site. He has no idea what he's talking about. He wasn't there. Kurt was there. Kerry was there. They watched a yellow screener screen 50,000 yards of material. And the rock has stayed on site. The rock stayed there. Was there a fence post that was left on the old dump road? Sure there was. Was there a piece of rebar? Sure there was, okay? Is it on phase 3? Will you hit it again? Yes, when you clear the trees, you're gonna hit it again. Is it tied into the woods? It's still there. He even spoke about the culvert where the metal is still there. It's on site. The town dumped it there for years. It fell out of someone's pickup. And when you get to that phase, you're gonna hit it again. Did we clean 99% of it that you can get to? Yes. And we certainly couldn't get to phase 3 by the culverts, and you couldn't clean it because there's trees there. But to say that that stuff is not native is absurd. You watched it being screened. Kurt watched it. He was there. He was there. He watched the screener. He was within 15 feet of the screening plant screening. And the stone was falling in the hole. Is it native? Is it virgin in place? No. Did we take the dirt out of it and leave the stone? Yes. There's nothing wrong with that. That's standard practice. We made a usable product. It's part of our application. It's part of the processing. Okay? That's no different than what we're going to do in the back. You got a big giant mountain. We're going to process it. And we're going to take some stone away and we're going to leave some stone there. And is that native because it changes composition?
I have to reflect on our farmland. You know, you dig in the farmland and you can find anything. Then I'm sure that in some of these places you'll find rebarb and you'll find, God knows, pieces of wood that were there for years. So I kind of go along that I don't think at this point that they buried all this stuff. It wouldn't be very advantageous. But I don't know, they probably should be able to go along with what the inland wetlands say is take away what's already been there, you know, without blasting anymore, so that they can. I mean, it's unfortunate that you guys got into this position by not paying attention to all the rules and regulations, and that it had to come to this, a cease and desist. But now that it has, we're obligated to make sure that this site is being taken care of the way it should be. But on the other hand, to wait 60 days, you know, we're now, if it was the beginning of winter, you'd say, oh, big deal. But now we're into a season where, you know, this is going to be well, that's the word, that, you know, on them, you know, it's, I can't think of the right word.
The commission was concerned about pollution because that was its initial thing.
Right.
We're $50,000 deep into pollution tests because someone alleged that you dumped something. This is our property. We have to develop it. It's a $75 million project. It is absurd to even make that. This whole issue is over a house and a right-of-way. It has nothing to do with erosion control.
That, you know,
You're right.
Yeah.
But from an
That's
erosion
not
control,
the issue. The issue is the site got out of hand.
Yeah.
well, listen, from an erosion control point of view, if there was ever an issue, we have tried to address it on a daily basis. And you can ask your own staff if we did not try to do that. Yes, did we make a mistake? Yeah. We did not get that stormwater pollution. Made a mistake. We missed the registration. But by the way, there's probably 20 other sites in town that don't have that registration as well. It was our mistake. We corrected it.
As they say, I'm probably for allowing them to go ahead with the partial
Yeah, so let's
removal.
kind of,
With
Yeah, this is
Carry and,
this is to modify an
Right.
existing cease and desist to allow for a very narrow
exactly.
amount of work that's
Because-
covered under the general stormwater permit
At this
that's
time-
currently active.
And also covered under their approval from planning and
Yeah.
zoning.
And it includes generally just removal of
Material.
allowed material that's allowed to be removed. That's what we're dealing with tonight,
Right.
just so we're clear.
I'd like to give the commission some further comfort level. I'd like to give this as an exhibit. These are the DEP regulations, all right? I'm going to read this into the record, and you guys can review this if you like. Clean brick, rock, ceramics, concrete, or asphalt. It reads, DEP regulations, clean brick, rock, ceramics, concrete, and asphalt, paving fragments which are virtually inert and pose neither a fire threat nor pollution threat to ground or surface water are considered clean fill and do not require disposal to a solid waste facility.
The only thing that we asked the commission, if we were missing the stormwater industrial storm permit, if the modification could be adjusted, that once we receive it, the registration, that we'll be able to continue blasting. That's the last missing component. And we know we can't start
You asked
blasting.
the inland wetlands that question as well.
Well, it's both, 100%.
Yeah.
But we're here for, we're just asking for a second approval based, once we gain the approval from the registration we hand it to the town, that we're allowed to continue.
I
Well-
don't think we can do that right
Yeah,
now.
I-
I think we have to do one step at a time.
I
When you get the
don't- I
approval,
don't
you come
think-
back, and if everything is.
I don't think we can do that,
Right.
like you just
I
said.
don't think we can.
Right, because
Right?
you'd have to vote
Yeah.
to lift the cease and desist. It would be separate.
We
Right.
can't,
And right now, it's
It-
just a partial
it
removal.
has to be public record, we can't do it on phone or email or any other way, right? It's
That's
gotta
our
be
last missing component, if I'm not
Here,
mistaken. That's what, is that our last missing component for a full
Industrial permit.
industrial permit?
and you'll be, yeah, that's more inland wetlands. You're gonna be continuing on for soil erosion control and so on and so forth.
Yes, as of right now, yes, that's something that has to be taken up by the Wetlands Commission.
Yeah.
How often do they want us there?
Okay.
So on and so forth, report back if it's not.
So what's your contract right now? Is it on a week by week
It is on
basis?
an ad, a requested as-need basis. So, and I believe the Wetlands Commission put the stipulation in an X amount of inches of rainfall that will be on the site. Hence, we put the erosion controls in, knowing that it was rain, while it was raining, we were out there, and then we monitored it afterwards.
Who's paying for this? Is the town paying for this?
No.
Unfortunately, the developer is completely.
If I could just make one last comment, just because I'm an independent third party, I just want a clarification on the soil testing and how it was done and why it looks the way it does. Again, at the wetlands meeting, the Wetlands Commission asked the developer where they can test, how they can test. Developer said as many holes as you want, wherever you want. One of the members decided that he wanted to be there, and we went out there and we let him select the holes. But it's important to note, R1 is where we first started, okay? Which I believe is in this vicinity where the houses were gonna be. R3, R2, R3, and R4 were done, because this Google map was with the gentleman when he was out there, and it looked like it was a large pile and a large excavation. First hole 2 was dug, it hit like shallow ledge, so he wanted to move back and he found R3 and R4. After that, this whole area that you see here, which is unit location N and M, on the Google Maps, there looks like there's piles or excavation. So the gentleman from the Wetlands Commission decided he wanted to try to find to see if there was any pollutants in there. There was some small brick and asphalt in there, but a lot of shallow ledge because that whole area had to be blasted. There was no giant fill pocket per se over there, so that's why they were all jumbled up. So as far as they tested virtually where the community building would be, where units N and M would be, and kind of where F and G were. I requested number 10, which isn't shown, just to make sure it was a full representation, which is kind of like where E is. So they tested across the board where the large fill was, they tested over here, and they tested over there. These sites were virtually chosen, via the Wetlands Commission, and the downhill sites were chosen by us.
Okay.
Okay, so basically, it's a full representation of what's there. It's not skewed one way or another. So that's entered for the record.
Okay. Any other discussion, questions, Commission?
In this picture here, are these grade piles, are those crushed rock or still rock, solid rock?
The question is, are the piles shown on the Google map that Kerry presented? That is all crushed stone.
That's also an older image. I'm not sure the exact date on that. That's not current.
These were all crushed, but these were all crushed piles, but at this time, probably half, over half, probably 60%.
A lot of the material that's shown in the school photo has been removed or put somewhere, whether it was filled or not. The size of the piles shown in this doesn't reflect really the current site condition. The piles are smaller, and the uncrushed rock, and I don't know if there's any on the site. I think it was all crushed. I don't remember seeing
There's
it.
probably uncrushed, maybe a couple hundred yards.
But you can see, directly adjacent to the test pit R2, you can see what crushed rock looks like, or uncrushed rock, the large boulders. And that's from an aerial satellite view. So stuff like that's on site, that cannot be processed or crushed. I didn't see any when I was out there.
So any further discussion? Again, we're modifying a cease and desist just to allow for very narrow removal
I make a
of...
motion that we modify the cease and desist so they can remove any stone that is already been piled.
Or material allowed under the general stormwater permit, generally. Yep. Any second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Question.
Yeah.
The modified approval we're giving, it can be rescinded at any time. Kerry goes out there and they're blasting, right? She can shut them down like that.
She's the zoning enforcement officer and the inland wetlands officer and the town planner. She can do anything she wants, apparently.
Absolutely.
I don't think that's going to happen.
No.
I don't think it'd be that.
No, and just along that point, I'm in communication with the fire marshal who issues the blasting permit. And so he's waiting for me to say it's okay, that there aren't any issues before planning and zoning and wetlands. And he's good to issue the permit.
Good question.
Yeah, so you can operate within the parameters, and if they go outside the parameters.
So any further discussion? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay, motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Next, town planners report. You're not here next week, 2 weeks.
Right, no, I will not be here.
Don't worry, I saw that. In the one.
And, right, yep.
Oh, yeah, I'm not here either.
So, does anyone know if they will not be here at the next meeting? Kurt is actually going to staff the meeting, I won't be here.
What's that? I didn't hear what you said.
So,
At
the
the
next meeting, you won't, I
I won't
won't,
be here for the next
Carrie
three.
won't. You won't either?
You won't, oh, then,
I'll be here after next, but I'm not here for the next one.
We don't have a quorum.
well,
We have Harry,
I
if
can
Harry's
check with
back.
Harry,
So it would be Harry, Charlie, and David.
David.
Yeah, but Carrie can't make it, or you
Carrie
No,
cannot.
but Kurt was going
Kurt will
to-
be staff.
will have everything screwed up. I think you ought to
No,
cancel the
no.
meeting. Not leave us
Yeah.
alone here.
Kurt provides the support. Okay, so I'll confirm that we have a quorum, but other than that, I don't have.
Do we have any business?
report. No other business.
Other than the continuations? Okay.
No. Right, and no new applications that I know of.
Okay. All right. Charlie, do your famous.
I move we adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Thank you.